This is the second week in our 6-week overview of the New Testament. Last week we looked at the first 4 books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which are each biographies of Jesus. And we focused on his life and miracles. Today, as we complete our look at the 4 Gospels, remember that gospel is just a Greek word that means good news. We want to focus on Jesus' teachings. Each of these 4 biographies of Jesus talks not only about his life and what he did, but they also record a lot of what Jesus taught. In fact, his life and death wouldn't mean much to us without knowing what he said. A lot of what he taught was about who he was and why he had come to earth. In fact, maybe that's a good place to begin today with what Jesus said about himself. First, Jesus claimed to be God, a claim for which we might declare a person insane today. But Jesus backed up this claim with his life, his miracles, and ultimately by his coming back to life 3 days after his death by execution. He said that he had existed before Abraham, who had lived 2,000 years before. He claimed that he had come to earth from heaven and that he would return there to the most honored place in the universe. He spoke of God's existing as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and that he was that part of God that we call God the Son. So don't be fooled by people who say that Jesus never claimed he was God. He claimed all of the honor and power and knowledge that only God can possess. Part of his claim of being God involved his saying that he would come back to earth as king and judge of the fate of all humanity. We'll talk more about that in week 6. Second, Jesus taught about people, you and me. It was sort of good news, bad news. Which do you want to hear first? Well, the bad news is that people everywhere and throughout history don't begin to measure up to the standard of a holy God. That failure is what Jesus and the rest of the Bible calls sin, and it separates us in this life and after we die from God, who is totally good, what Jesus calls holy. But here's the good news. Jesus taught that the reason he chose to become a human was so that he could pay the debt that our sinful lives have accrued, and that he would do that through his willing death in our place. He said, "I have come so that they may have life and have it abundantly." The third area of Jesus' teaching involved how we are to live our lives in relationship to God and to each other. Even people who don't believe Jesus was God acknowledge that he was a great moral teacher. One of his longer teachings, called the Sermon on the Mount, is acknowledged by many psychologists as being the best guide for healthy relationships and moral principles ever given. Jesus criticized phony or hypocritical religion and commanded his followers to love and to serve each other. He showed us what that would look like in his own life. He said, "I didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many." Soon after Jesus' death and resurrection, he left earth, but he commanded and empowered his followers to keep doing what he had been doing, loving God and loving others. And that's where we'll pick up our New Testament overview next time.